Just a second, guys. Just gonna see if YouTube's gonna pick up the feed again. Okay, looks like we are live on the old YouTube and Facebook. So, sorry about the technical difficulties and for being late, but we are live now. So today we're going to be talking about Hecate, the Orphic Hymn, the theurgy around Hecate, and a few other things. So first off, I have a song for you. So I'm going to mute myself. Hey Vesper, how's it going? Had a few technical difficulties getting started, but we're here. We get a song that I prepared for us to let people trickle in, and then we'll get into this thing.
Τον σταυροδρόμι, φύλακας των τυδηλών. Ο αθεγίστεμος στα βασίλεια, με χάρη κι αυκολία, φραγούμενη πρεσί φωτίζω, το μονοπάτι σου φύλακα. Μυστική ψοφυλή της λιωτάς, εντολή σαν ένα κενό. Σε φωνάζω μα μαύρο σκυλί και γουρνάει κύβρε απλά. Εκεί πιστή μυστηριώδη συνοχή σας, ακάτι του τριπλού βασιλείους, ουρανός στη θάλασσα, μοναδό πάδι των περσών και της αστηρίας. Η αρχαία σου ασπρέμανε, δευμορίζει θνατούς παριορισμούς. Σε ψόρκη και γουροτία, η ουσία σας παρυφάια. Φρουρώνας της πέρτος του αιανού, στέκεσαι ο Θεός, ετάτιος εγώ του. Αναζητούν τη μισή σας και τα πριμένα μυστήρια σας, να μας χαρίσει και σοφία του λαώνω. Όσο για τη φήμετρα προσέφερες παρηγοριά και βοήθεια, αναζητώντας τι τερσιφούνινος από τον Εύη. Το έσπρατέσατε φάσιμο στη μακλώνητη δυναλύση, για να περίγει φύτο στας ουρανίας σφαίρες, σ' οποιοδήποτε μήκος. Νουβάλι θεάλικα που άκω την επίσημη κρίσιμος. Φαντάστα κι ως εμφανίσεις, στέλτε την οκριέλο σε εσάς. Επιτέλουστε μας να περάσουμε από τη σφαίρα στον ουρανό πέρα. Κι με τα ιερά σας κλειδιάν, σε κλειδίστο του παγκόσμιο δεσμό. Το κύβολος φωτοφούρος να ποεί σαν τεμίτα. Ακατάκτητη κι αδάμαστη, υποκλείσε προσκάστες τεμόνες σου. Ευθυνής λαπαλεδρόμος, ελαφοκτόνος και σοφός. Στενούν κύριο με την κρακαία σας, τα πουλά κλέλουν με το μάτι μας. Στεκίμαστε στεπτήρι, μα ανοιχτάς καρδιάς, με χλάδι
Alright, guys. Hope you enjoyed that there. We are going to move on. Since we're late, got some ground to cover. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry it's been so long since my last live stream. Been getting a lot of things together and put together over on Substack. And the two platforms are going to be in a little bit of flux for the next couple of weeks as I reset everything and prepare for kind of like loading up the next 6 months worth of content. So bear with me. I'm probably going to be pretty quiet over the next 2 weeks as I get everything ready. But this is the introduction to a new series here on our live streams on YouTube. And we're going to be going over the Orphic Hymn to Hecate. So I'm going to start out today with a reading from Patrick Dunn's Orphic Hymns. This copy right here is a go-to for me as an English speaker. Obviously, with the Orphic Hymns, if you can learn Greek, learn how to pronounce Greek, and you're going to hear me butcher quite a bit of Greek because I'm still very much learning, especially when it comes to the pronunciation. But here we go. So from the Patrick Dunn. I call the beloved goddess of the roads, and places where three ways meet, heavenly, earthly, and in the sea, the saffron-cloaked goddess of graves, performing the Bacchic rites with the souls of the dead. The daughter of Perses, lover of solitude, who delights in deer, the nocturnal goddess, protector of dogs, implacable queen, roaring like a beast with image ungirt, and irresistible, bull-herding queen and key-bearer to all the universe. Ruler, nymph, and nursemaid who haunts the hills, I pray you, maiden, to attend these rites, always with a kind heart to your ox herd. Now, Dunn has an interesting note here. He says that Proclus, in his hymn to Hecate and Janus, the Roman god of doorways, he basically equates the two. So what we are dealing with here, first off, just from a note within Patrick Dunn's book, before we get into anything that I've got today, is a lot of crossover between other deities that are equated with doorways, liminal spaces. That's what we're talking about with Hecate. The idea here, Patrick says, that she rules heavens, earth, and sea comes from Hesiod, who says that unlike the other gods, she gets a share of all three realms. And this has something to do most likely with the Titanomachy. There's, it seems as though Hecate doesn't get involved on the side of the Titans, either stays out of the way or helps the Olympians in some way in that battle, the crossover. Potentially, and I don't have any evidence for this, and I haven't really looked into it, but Hecate being, more of an Anatolian goddess that moves into the Greek later, it could mean that she came in that way and wasn't a part of the initial fallout between more of the ancestral gods, which were the Titans, that then gave way to the Olympians. Dunn also says here that the ox herd here is probably a reference to a particular role or a ritual role in the cult of Orpheus. Now I haven't looked at the Dunn version for a little bit here, and this is this translation I did a few months ago, but I do want to look into that, and maybe something will come up for me today as we get into this. But let's get into the actual nitty-gritty of today. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about who is Hecate. We've already done the hymn reading from Patrick Dunn. We're going to go line by line, talk about the theurgical elements within the Orphic Hymn and how it relates to things like the Chaldean oracles, and that's where our supporting texts are, and then we'll have some time for some Q&A. As always, guys, if you like what I'm putting together here or on Substack, hit me up with a super chat, whatever donations, whatever you can do. Share, spread the wealth, comment, like, all that kind of stuff. Really, the main way to support me is to go over to Substack, look at what I've been writing over there, and help me keep this thing going. So, a little bit about the Orphic Hymns. The Orphic Hymn to Hecate, as I put here, it exists not just as a ritual text, but it's a historical artifact. It tells us a lot about what her functions are, how she was seen, particularly by the Orphics. And keep in mind, the collection of hymns, they don't all come together as a single unit. They're interspersed throughout time. And what we're looking at, most likely, the collection extant texts that we have are somewhere in late antiquity, probably somewhere around the time of 1st or 2nd century for a lot of this material is what we have, but some of them are much older. What we're trying to do with this, or what I was trying to do with this, is there are a lot of incredible translations of the Orphic hymns out there. In fact, there has been an explosion on the occult book writing scene about the Orphic hymns, so there's 6 or 7 new books produced within the last couple of years, and some of the translations are great, some of them are, just kind of more fun. And if you want the really, really good translations, I have to suggest Kristen Mathis's work. She's excellent, an excellent philologist. Go check her out. She has a great Substack as well. But today, what I've been working on with these is, in particular, theurgic translations. Stuff that has a resonance within English and not necessarily the Greek, but also encodes some of the meaning. So, Hecate, Enodia, she has many, many epithets. We have quite a few that I've pulled up here. Night wandering, tender, delicate, of the underworld, Chthoniya, nurse of the young, leader of the dogs, only begotten maiden, brightly coiffed, queen of those below, Brimo, the terrifying, which is one of my favorites here. She says, and let me just move this over a little here. There we go. That's better. Because I don't think you can see everything in the frame. Didn't really frame that very well, did I? But all told, who is Hecate? Who is Enodia? Well, she's goddess of magic, witchcraft, the night, moon, ghosts, necromancy. She is a multi-tool of all kinds of elements. And she's also a guardian of doorways, of liminal spaces, of moving around. So this is where I think Dunn gets the whole Janus comparison and how Proclus compares the two. She was the only child of the Titans Perses and Asteria, from whom she received her power over heaven, earth, and sea. There's also some stuff in Hesiod about Zeus giving her that, or it may not be Hesiod. There's somebody else. There's so much on Hecate that it's really difficult. But I do have a quote from the Theogony here, 404. Hecate, whom Zeus, the son of Cronos, honored above all, he gave her splendid gifts to have a share of the earth and the unfruitful sea. She received honor also in starry heaven, and is honored exceedingly by the deathless gods. For as many as were born of Gaia and Oranos and the Titans, amongst all of these she has her due portion. The son of Cronos did her no wrong, nor took anything away of all that was her portion among the former Titan gods. But she holds, as the division was at the first from the beginning, privilege both in earth, in heaven, and in sea, and also because she is an only child, the goddess receives not less honor, but still much more, for Zeus honors her. So, she is a survivor in the Titanomachy. She comes over with and maintains something quite close to what we might see with Hestia. Hestia gets a portion of all. Here, Zeus honors her specifically, saying that she gets a portion of all 3 areas of the universe, which is kind of a big deal from the big guy, right? So what we are dealing with here with Hecate, and why she is the second hymn in the Orphic corpus, is because she is a gateway piece. The hymns usually start with the hymn to Musaeus, which is known as the most perfect prayer in the Orphic corpus. If you can't get to any of the other ones, knowing the hymn to Musaeus is one of the best ways to accomplish any feat that you need to have done. But beyond that hymn to Musaeus, The first that we encounter is Hecate in the corpus as it is, and I think there is a reason for that. If we are going to work with any of the other spaces within Orphism, within the ancient Greek religion, even though Orphism is kind of a fringe element, it interpenetrates much of what the temple cults were on about. And so Hecate being right after that hymn to Musaeus means that if we were reading this in chronological order, she's vital to the process. So I mentioned her parentage through Hesiod. Perses, who is a child of Krios and Eurybia, the ram, the ruler, and wide force, which is really kind of interesting. And Perses is kind of this very chaotic element, so we have some danger factor with Hecate. When it comes to the other side of things, Asteria is kind of strangely sometimes portrayed as Nyx, who would have been the daughter of Phanes, or in other cases, like within Hesiod, she is the daughter of Koios and Phoebe. So we have some mixed up parentage, and this is very common with a lot of the Greek lineages, the ancestry, if you will. And the Orphics, they don't do it the same way as, say, Hesiod lays it all out. There's a lot of strange epithetic crossing where one reference to Asteria means the starry night, the starry one, which of course could mean Nyx at the same time. And so we're not entirely sure what the Orphics kind of thought, but we will find some things within the hymn itself. So pre-8th century, we've got Anatolian origins. We're going to go through some of the origins here. There's some Carian heritage, which suggests that she originated among the Carians of Anatolia, where most of the theophoric names involved Hecateus, Hecatomnus are attested, and she remained a great goddess into historical times. There is some stuff about her within the Lagina sanctuary. There's a major cult center in southwestern Turkey with a key carrying ceremony. And there was some imperial Roman elements happening with Augustus as well. We can find traces of her cult in Lydia, Sicilia, and Phrygia, with sculptures, friezes, and coins throughout Anatolia, which is really interesting. So we've got some idea that she is somewhat older, and she continued to flourish under Roman imperial patronage. So she's got a very wide berth, which kind of goes back to the parentage of Eurybia being the wide force. There's quite a bit of information about Hecate out there, so if you're interested, go check it out. Now, from the 8th century into the 4th century, as we move into more classical Greek, there is an integration which represents kind of a crucial transition. Unlike many other foreign deities who kind of remain peripheral, Hecate receives extraordinary honor, not only within Hesiod, but within the Orphics. She's presented as one of the only pre-Olympian power to retain full authority after the Titanomachy, which we've kind of gone over, but it also reflects her fundamental role as a cosmic mediator, the principle that governs between transitions or states of being, which is why she's so important in the front part, the kind of front end of the Orphic corpus. Her household worship in classical Athens demonstrates how she became integrated into daily life for a lot of people. She's the governor of moving between states as we move through different parts of the day. Worship, or moving from one kind of deity to another, Hecate is always present, always helping us move. Now, Pausanias credits the sculptor Alcamenes in the late 5th century with the first triplicate depiction, which we see a lot in Hecate with the 3 faces of the goddess, where he says that's where this creation of that Hecatean motif comes from. And then we have some stuff here with the mystery traditions, evidence of sacrificial rituals, mystery rites established by Orpheus in various Greek cities. There's not much there, but there's little things. Now, as we move forward in time, the Neoplatonic transformation, I'm calling it, from 3rd to 6th century CE, she finds weight in Iamblichus. He recognized that with philosophical contemplation alone, we can't really bridge the gap, and that's where we get theurgy from. That's where we get a lot of what Iamblichus brings to the table as theurgy, which is a lot of it is very Egyptian, right? But in this, and Iamblichus is working, let's keep in mind, he's working as well with the Chaldean oracles, and Hecate plays a huge role within that. And so what we'll see today is a couple of the different oracle fragments allude directly to Hecate as being the world soul, being very vital to the process of raising oneself up towards the gods, or theurgically or ritualistically achieving henosis of some kind. Now, Proclus experienced luminous visions of Hecate through theurgic practice, and he integrated her into systematic his metaphysical framework of the Henads and the divine emanations. So that was recorded by his. I've got different notes everywhere, so let me get my bearings here, guys. That particular event of Proclus experiencing luminous visions comes from his biographer Marinus, who shows, I think, that it wasn't just theoretical speculation, that this was something that Proclus was involved in. We know that he was very pious, and he was specifically involved with daily ritual work. So this vision is most likely accurate, maybe a little embellished at times, but it's what he experienced. Now, this systematic integration of her into the cult, not really a cult, but the Neoplatonic thinking, it bridges the gap between what we think might be happening in Anatolia and what we see most often in a lot of our work that we see now. A lot of the stuff coming out now really comes from this Neoplatonic explosion that happened. And it shows that she maintains an essential character throughout all of this. Even though some elements of her become more elevated or more blown out of proportion, that's probably not a fair usage of terms, more accentuated, let's say that, in the Neoplatonic, very theurgical stuff that comes down to us that we have much more of. She maintains a very similar character, though. Like, the influences that she has across time say that from the beginning she is a guardian of multiple spaces and has the ability, or mobility, if you will, to move across those spaces. So, let's get into the translation I put together for you guys today. I invoke, O sovereign of thresholds, triple form mistress of mysteries, blessed emanation of divine light, dwelling in heaven's heights, yet threading earth's deepest secrets. Your essence flows like waves across the cosmic waters, while dawn's transformation drapes you in its sacred light. Guardian of death's portals, dancing in divine frenzy with those beyond the veil. Daughter of an ancient power, friend of untamed places, delighting in the fleet-footed ones. Night-walking one, keeper of hounds, unconquerable queen, whose voice shakes the wild, unrestrained, whose aspect none dare challenge, moving with bull force, mighty keeper of the keys to all existence, pathfinding maiden, tender of the young, wanderer of mountain heights, I entreat you, sacred one, to attend these divine initiations. Different than what we read with Patrick Dunn. Now, again, I'm taking a lot of creative license in putting this together, but we'll see that there is a lot of it in there. There's a lot that we can find out. Now, within the Chaldean corpus, Chaldean oracles, Fragment 51 says, Around the hollow of her right flank, a great stream of the primordially generated soul gushes forth in abundance, totally ensouling light, fire, ether, worlds. In the left flank of Hecate exists the source of virtue, which remains entirely within and does not give up its virginity. So we see that she is a untouched, unmarred by man, and essentially is associated, of course, with Artemis, with Protheria in some ways, as the one who gives birth in some way to the soul, who has the keys to moving between those realms. Now, there's a lot of raw power within the Chaldean oracles. Between the Chaldean oracles and the Orphic hymns, both traditions, I wouldn't really necessarily even call them traditions, but I think they kind of bounced off of each other. But Orphism definitely would have been more of a cult situation, and the Chaldean oracles were a sacred text. Whether or not there was a cult around it, I'm not entirely sure. But they both recognize, across the text, from the Orphic hymn to the Chaldean oracles, that ultimate reality unfolds through cosmic conflict. And if we look close enough, we notice the subtle yet kind of profound difference in their vision of what that kind of conflict means. For me, in things like the Dark Night of the Soul, in times of tribulation, I've discovered that these battles are not between forces of evil necessarily. They are between things that are light and dark. And it's really interesting how Hecate comes forth, because she has a darkness to her, but then, and we see this with the witchcraft, the darkness, all these sorts of things. But at the same time, there is this theurgical stream that's all about light and the soul ascending, and so there is a dichotomy here with Hecate. She's not easy to pin down. So sorry, went off the rails a little bit there. One of the things we have to notice about all of the Orphic hymns is they come in three very specific stages. The invocation, right at the beginning. The development, which is a mythical story about the particular god. And then the final stage is the petition. This invocation is rich with epithets. So, I invoke, O sovereign of thresholds, triple-formed mistress of mysteries, blessed emanation of divine light. There's multiple theurgical elements here. When we invoke her as the sovereign of thresholds, or Enodian, we're not merely calling on a goddess of Crossroads, but establishing a relationship or a cosmic principle, kind of like an axis where we govern the transitions of states between being. Epithets are more than just a calling card. They speak to the microcosm within us, theurgically speaking. As we move through these hymns, we notice that certain things happen within us. It's not just external events. And I think that a lot of what the Orphic corpus is about transforming your consciousness, making you change in some way, or make your perspective change in some way. So when we use something like Sovereign of the Thresholds, Enodian, that particular word says a lot more than just liminal goddess. It is essentially a map. It's like, here are the coordinates. We are at the center of things. We're at the cosmic axis. Now, this second part, triple-formed mysteries. This triadic nature connects directly to Chaldean understanding and the reality's fundamental structure. The three domains, kind of like we talked about, heaven, earth, sea. There are three states of being: ontological, cognitive, and cosmological. Cosmological, ontological, cognitive. They have to be activated simultaneously for genuine theurgic, transformation to occur. So, again, we are getting coordinates of different layers of the soul of reality, of the cosmos. We are essentially dialing in. So epithets were meant to produce a psychic or a conscious effect. They aren't just super pretty words. The ritual poetry technology of the hymns is meant to produce a change. Now, the phrase Mistress of Mysteries transforms the word triodeten from graphical or geographical description to initiatory principle. This is where consciousness learns to dwell within liminal states rather than just passing through them, right? We can pass through lots of initiations, but where's the integration, right? And then we end up here with the blessed emanation of divine light, Iranen. And this signals that Hecate is not merely beautiful in human terms, which she would be, but also she radiates blessing power that flows from the one itself. So she is the final emanation of the one, depending upon which system we're looking at here. Really, a lot of this is probably more Chaldean than it is Orphic, and that's where I'm drawing this from. And it's kind of mixing some systems, but hang with me, it's going to make sense. She is that last emanation of the one before it becomes manifest creation. She is the world soul, the soul that births all other souls. And that is why Zeus, if we're looking at this from an Orphic perspective, if Zeus is the one, the ineffable one that comes and emanates all things, she is the receptacle that receives those things. So that's the invocation. Next, we have the demonstration or the development. It's the mythos, it's the deity, it's all of the different bits and pieces of that deity. Dwelling in the heavens and heights, yet threading earth's deepest secrets, your essence flows like waves across the cosmic waters, while dawn's transformation drapes you in sacred light. So here we're looking at more metaphysical architecture of divine manifestation. The traditional translation of celestial, chthonic, chthonic, and marine, I think, misses the dynamic vertical axis that's present that we are dealing with if we're talking about theurgy. And so that's where this translation differs a little bit than what we're looking at. I'm trying to bring out some of the structure. All of these are structured in such a way that they are, again, meant to make you have a consciousness shift. Now, Iranian, that's the heavens heights, represents the noetic realm of pure intelligible principles. Chthonian, right, that's the earth's deepest secrets, is the psychic realm where these principles take form. And then we have Analian, okay, that's the material realm of manifest. This is the essence, the cosmic waters, right? This is the material realm of flux and manifestation. I did this because presenting Hecate as simultaneously dwelling within all three, we collapse the perception of separation between the levels. It's more fluid than that. We're restoring the recognition of divine transformation, or divine presence, if you will, throughout the cosmos. She's interpenetrating all of these things, which is why she can move through them or aid us in moving through them. It's because she's present at all layers of the created world, the created cosmos. Now, the dawn's transformation here drapes you in its sacred light. Krokopelon is crucial, I think. Dawn represents neither night nor day, so we're going back to the liminal, the threshold between that kind of like alchemical moment, if you will, where transformation occurs. This is where the traditional let's say translation is saffron, gold colors. It might be a direction in some ways to wear red, or to wear kind of like the dawn color of red and gold. But saffron is the real word, but I wanted to say this is about that transformation between night and day, that liminal space, that initiation. If you guys have any questions, please get at me on the chat. I'm going to just keep rolling. Now the next line. Guardian of Death's portals, dancing in divine frenzy with those beyond the veil. This is probably the most profound mystery within the Orphic Hymn to Hecate. It's a revelation that death is not termination, but initiation, which fits very much within the Orphic mode. Their entire milieu is about preparing for death, dying while living so that you don't die when you die. And the explicit use here of bakeusan, it links us to the underworld. Now, I remember in the beginning, Vesper was talking about connection with Cerberus. It's possible. Cerberus tends to be more of the Hades dog, guardian of the underworld. But since she is also guardian of Death's portals, I think you might be onto something there. Maybe there is something there. There's just, I don't have anything that says that. But functionally speaking, guardian of Death's portals, right? She's there in that transformation. And she's also super present within the Persephone myth, right? She helps Demeter track down Persephone and figure out what happens. And since Persephone is the one that receives us in death, it makes sense that Hecate would be the guardian of Death's portals, right? This Bakeusan, right? The Bacchic rites is what is mentioned in Patrick Dunn's. This aspect of Dionysian ecstasy, dancing in divine frenzy here, it's oblivion, right? It's not oblivion. It's not oblivion. It's divine frenzy, divine madness, and we see that here in that term, in the Bakeusan. We have some divine frenzy. When we understand death as divine frenzy, we're being instructed that the initiatory death rebirth experience is also something that we experience in life. When we go through these theurgic transformations, it feels a lot like we die. In fact, many of the katabatic rituals are meant to give you that experience of dying to self and being reborn into something greater. And this connects to the Chaldean teaching of approaching the fire of direct divine contact that transforms your consciousness. Hecate's torch, then, this divine fire, becomes the guide not just for souls crossing over, but for living practitioners crossing between states of consciousness. And then we have the final term, tumbeideon, and that's what I think we're talking about here with the torch. The guardian, that's the term for guardian of Death's portals, tumbeideon, and that's, it's just one of the many multi functions of Hecate. All right, daughter of ancient power, friend of untamed places, delighting in the fleet-footed ones. So we move on, right? We know she's got some stuff to do with the underworld. What else does she have? So we've got here some Perseian lineage. Connects her to the pre-Olympian divine forces. Perseian, which is the first word. Daughter of ancient power. It's a cosmic inheritance from the Titans, which means that she's very, very old. This ancient power represents what remains all cultural constructions, or when all cultural constructions are stripped away. Next up, we have Pheleramon, the friend of untamed places, which means that she helps us operate beyond civilized categories. So wild things, wild spaces, wild places. Again, this is a connection potentially to Artemis. And it's in those wild spaces where we can affect kind of genuine transformation. Civilization is a way of kind of keeping us rather bound up in the illusion, whereas the wild places give us a little bit more access to, in my opinion at least, what it's all about. And then we have Elefoisi, the fleet-footed ones, which represent divine messengers. Hecate is the head of the hierarchy of any daimonic messenger that we have. Even though different daimons exist, let's say Proclean, in a chain, certain daimons work with Hermes or Zeus or Aphrodite. In the realm of manifestation, all of them report to Hecate, right? So she is the guardian of the fleet-footed ones, right? Now remember, in the other translation in Patrick Dunn's, what we're referencing here is deer, delights in deer, which I think it's accurate, right? We have a lot of deer elements, which goes back to this wild consciousness, but the fleet-footed ones matches her more theurgic understanding of, or her theurgic element of being the kind of queen of all messengers within the created realm, which means she sends the messages. We receive them through her. If you ever need to work with a daimon, Hecate is the one to basically hierarchically call on to say, hey, get that daimon to move down this way so we can do some work. Now, moving on. Sovereignty. Canine guardians. This is where Cerberus might come in. You were mentioning Vesper. Night-walking one, keeper of hounds, unconquerable queen. This is just a series of epithets. Boom, bang, boom. This is who she is. Night-walking consciousness. Nukte Rayon. Night-walking consciousness represents the awareness that operates when our ordinary perception is suspended, right? Our ordinary light consciousness is just gone. This is one of her functions. She helps us through some of those darker elements. Skulekiten, keeper of hounds, reveals Hecate's role as a guardian of what the Chaldean oracles call the keen-eyed dogs that leap forth from the center, which I think what they're referencing there in my own work within the Chaldean oracles is the psychic faculties that hunt or track down the doorways, the pathways, hunt down our prey, if you will, of our spiritual progress, of our ascent. And then finally here we have Amakaton. The unconquerable aspect represents self-sufficiency or completeness in oneself, some sort of autonomy. Her sovereignty represents a center of consciousness that remains uncompromised by external influences. So for practitioners, it becomes kind of something that's transferable to us. The development of an unshakable inner authority, or basileon. It gives us this, which is this term here at the end, basileon. It shows that she can grant that authority to us if we're working with her, but it ultimately comes from her. And we see that again with the Chaldean perspective of her being at the head of all of the divine messengers, all of the world weavers. Everything that happens at the created level comes through Hecate. Divine invincibility and unrestrained power, whose voice shakes the wild unrestrained, whose aspect none dare challenge. Theurgical, the voice that shakes the wild, connects to the Chaldean concept of divine thunder. Now, in the Chaldean oracles and in Iamblichus, they talk about the Younguses, these spirits that come to us with this kind of like whoa, 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 like this thunderous sound. And that's what we're talking about here with Theurgical. It's not just a sound, but there's a vibratory impact that happens when we are engaged in a divine encounter. This sound tends to occur with any divine encounter. There's like this. It's also reported within some astral projection and or out-of-body experiences. This wah, 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 which is reported here in the Orphic hymns. So we know that people were doing it then, we're experiencing it here now. The unrestrained, azaston, signals what Damascius would call divine infinity that exceeds any framework we might use to contain it. So she's beyond whatever we can dream up to contain her. It's not chaotic formlessness, but it's like she has purposeful freedom. Again, go back to Hesiod saying she was granted this kind of like all pass, if you will, from any artificial constraint. So there's no restraining Hecate in ritual praxis. Which is why I tend to approach these sorts of things from a more reverential or devotional perspective rather than, say, how you do in some compulsory spiritual evocations in other traditions. And then the final term here that I wanted to go over was aprosmakon eidos. Aprosmakon eidos. The aspect none dare challenge teaches us a reverent approach to this overwhelming power. So just she's not to be messed with. Just be respectful. Moving with bull force, mighty keeper of the keys to all existence. Tauropolon. The bull force represents what Orphic and Chaldean traditions recognized as generative power that propels manifestation forward. This is the primordial creative force, the energy that plows divine principles into the fabric of reality itself. Okay, she is pushing with some sort of bull force the dynamic generation that needs to occur at the level of creation. Kleidukon, the key holding function, reveals her as the cosmic gatekeeper, which we kind of talked about already. The Neoplatonists called it the mediating principle that allows higher realities to manifest in lower ones. So she is not only the gatekeeper, but she is the funnel by which these higher principles get generated in this level of existence. Every genuine theurgic operation depends on this specific mediating function. So it's why it's so important that she is placed first and foremost within the Orphic corpus. It says within the Chaldean oracles, and I forget which fragment it is, but the paternal intellect sows symbols throughout the cosmos, which is talking about Santhimata, the specific signs. They all come into existence through Hecate. The pathfinding maiden, tender of the young, wanderer of mountain heights. Hegemonean. This tender aspect right here, hegemonean, is pathfinding because it emphasizes, I think, an active guidance rather than a passive presence. She is actively with us at all times, guiding us. So she's not just like standing by. I think sometimes she is, and I feel like in my own experience with Hecate, it's been like kind of like a, come on, I'm waiting on you. I've been guiding you. When are you going to do this? When are you going to do this thing? I'm waiting. She doesn't merely point the way, but she walks with you through these developmental transitions, which is good to know if you're ever looking to engage with Hecate, which I don't know how you do most magic without it, particularly from a Greco-Egyptian or Greco-Orphic mode. Kurotrophon. This next one. Tender of the young refers not just to children, but the developing aspects of our own consciousness as we elevate ourselves spiritually. The parts of awareness that are newly emerging or that require kind of protections. She's protecting us as we're in those incubatory phases. Urese Poitin, or Poitin, the wanderer of mountain heights, represents a perspective gained through ascension or consciousness as we are remaining connected and grounded in our embodied experience, but we are reaching higher and higher and higher, right? She is a guardian of helping us walk up those mountains, so to speak. All right, so that's her in a nutshell. These are all the functions, right? So we understand kind of like what she's there for, which is kind of like everything. So, like, it's very much a multi-tool, but she's very much interested in helping us in our ascension. The final piece, though, is the final appeal, and this is the final piece of any Orphic hymn. I entreat you, Sacred One, to attend these divine initiations, bestowing favor upon the seeker with an ever-joyful heart. This structures the Orphic hymns as divine initiations, one after the other, and it transforms the telesai from mere ceremonies, teletai, from mere ceremonies to transformative practices that fundamentally alter our consciousness. The hymn reveals that there's a practical purpose. This is not just for praise, although it can be used that way, but this is an active invocation for participating in mystery work. Now, from my own experience and from others who can also attest to this, if you simply recite and read the Orphic hymns, it's better if you do it in Greek. There's a certain sonic architecture to it, if you can manage and practice a lot. But even in English, I have found this to be true. Reading them front to back, reciting them out loud, has verifiable and very noticeable changes, psychically speaking, and in the way that your awareness and perspective will change. It's all baked into the entire system, which is why the Orphic hymns are so fascinating. You can use them as devotion or to literally change the way that you see the world. It's a participation in the mysteries. Eumene usan, ke ka re ote thumoi. Right? That's the ever joyful heart represents the divine joy that emerges when consciousness aligns with its true nature. This joy is not happiness dependent on circumstances, but the fundamental bliss of being in and of itself. Right? Eumene usan, ke ka re ote thumoi. Favor with an ever joyful heart. There is supposed to be joy in this experience, and Hecate can help us get there. Now, what we are looking at from a broadband perspective, from invocation to union, we are opening thresholds in consciousness. We are navigating the vertical axis of cosmic emanation. We are embracing death as an ecstatic transformation. We are aligning with primordial power that has sovereignty that cannot be questioned. Receiving guidance from a pathfinding maiden. And from a practical level, the ritual recitation creates the necessary vibratory resonance to continue through the next hymn. They build off of each other, and the sequence is there for a reason. Each epithet that we encounter activates a specific divine quality. So the Orphic hymns can be used to say, if I need to move through something, if I'm feeling like there's a lot of roadblocks in my life, I can go to this hymn and say, Hecate, help me find a way through. There's progressive movement through consciousness, stages of consciousness. If I need to, let's say, level up, if you will, if I need to integrate shadow or light aspects, Hecate is the go-to, right? Iamblichus reminds us that theurgy is not manipulation of divine power, but co-creation, or the conditions for authentic divine self-manifestation, henosis, God-making of yourself. And it reveals that the gods themselves, I think, according to their own nature, help us. That they want to guide us along these paths, right? It's not about our expectations or our desires. It's more of a co-creation. Theurgy is the ritualistic theater of recreating creation. And so when we work with this, keep that in mind. If you're ever interested in working with the hymns theurgically, that's what this whole piece is about. But I'll open it up. These are a little shorter than my usual, so I've got a little bit more time for Q&A, but get at me if you have a question. Looks like we've got 8 of you in here. Wow. On a Wednesday. And after I botched the opening. But if you have any questions, I'll stick around for 5-10 minutes. If you have anything for me based on that slide, or if you want to go back to a specific line of the translation. I'll go back to the original. And if you have a question, ask it. Hope you guys have enjoyed this today. If you do, and if people really like it, we'll keep doing them. I have been writing about them, so if you really enjoyed this, there is Let's see, we have the Orphic Hymn to Hecate, we have the Orphic Hymn to Nyx, which I recently did, and the Orphic Hymn to Hestia, already on Substack. So if you enjoy this kind of exegesis of the Orphic hymns, these deep looks into what the meanings of the epithets are, or the roles and functions of these spirits or deities, check out the Substack, which is linked in the About page here on YouTube. Nobody? No questions? Man, I must have done a good job. All right, well, if you can't think of anything, you can't. It's all good. If you have anything, feel free to message me or, write a comment on here. Like, share, do all that kind of stuff to help the channel keep growing. Thanks so much, guys. I'll be back in a couple of weeks. I'm taking a little break from content creation and posting in over the next couple of weeks to try and schedule some stuff out and win some time back in life instead of being under the gun to produce this, that, or the other thing. So look for a little bit of a dry spell here on YouTube while I build some stuff out, and then we will be back